Chapter 5. There were two things Remington Baker prayed for as a child. One, he wanted his older brother, Reed, to disappear without a trace. And two, he wanted to be a pilot like his father. Luckily for him, only one of his prayers were answered. After he'd served his time in the military, he applied for Unity Airlines and got the call a week later that he'd been accepted. It was one of the happiest days of his life, not only because his dream had come true, but because Remy knew his father, were he still alive, would have been proud of him. 10 years later, and Remy had done quite well for himself. He was the second most senior first officer based in New York, and he had a good reputation for being both efficient and thorough. His plan was to make captain by 40, and as long as he kept his nose clean and stayed off the radar, he would be ready to upgrade in a few months. "Take my suitcase to the car, Henry," Remy told the bellman, struggling with his tie in the atrium mirror. "I'll be down momentarily." "Yes, sir." Henry nodded and grabbed the handle of Remy's luggage. He was just about to leave when he looked back and said, "Will Mr. Erin be needing any more assistance moving in, sir?" For the past week, Remy, Henry, and Erin spent hours moving the Omega into his condo. Considering Erin's age and caste, Remy had anticipated a good amount of stuff, but Remy had not anticipated that Erin would have the wardrobe of a minor gentry. There were boxes and boxes of clothes, shoes, and accessories, and just when Remy thought there couldn't possibly be another box, Erin came down from his apartment with several more. To Erin's credit, the Omega was surprisingly organized. He had them sorted and marked so that the job of unpacking was relatively easy. However, halfway through unloading, it became apparent that all of Erin's belongings would not fit in the guest room. It was these circumstances that compelled Remy to offer him the princess suite adjoining his own. "Are you sure it's okay?" Erin asked worriedly. "I don't want to inconvenience you." "Would it be an inconvenience?" Remy had answered without concern. "I'll be gone half the month, so you'll have the privacy you need. The bathroom separates us, and there's a lock from both sides. I only ask that you keep the television and music down in your room." "Of course," Erin nodded eagerly. "You won't even know I'm here." And that was that. No frill, no fuss. Never mind the fact that the master and princess suite were designed for a mated pair, or that Remy hadn't used the lock on the bathroom door since he'd bought the condo. Both he and Erin had agreed to a trial run of 1 month, and if something did go wrong during that time, Remy was resigned to let Erin go. "I believe so," Remy answered to Henry's question. "I can't imagine that he'd have much more, but I'll be sure to ask him before I leave." "Sounds good, sir." The bellman shut the door behind him, leaving Remy to finish preparing. He'd already double-checked his briefcase for his wallet, keys, and ID. Now all that was left was to leave instructions for Erin, and of course, fix his damn tie. "Annalee, Erin, come down here, please," he bellowed up the stairs. He'd instructed his daughter to fetch Erin 10 minutes ago, and they still hadn't returned. "Coming, Papa." A moment later, he heard the thundering footsteps above him. Annalee and Erin laughed as they rushed down the stairs, running to meet Remy at the door. "I won," Erin said out of breath. I won," Annalee shouted back through her laughter. Okay, you won," and pointed to her. "But next time I won't go easy on you. You've met your match, Miss Annalee Baker," he said dramatically. The two burst into infectious giggles, completely oblivious to Remy's disapproving glare. "Are you two quite finished?" Remy asked as he yanked the knot out of his tie and started over. "Yes, sir," Erin mocked Remy's formal tone. "We are." His words trailed when he caught sight of Remy fixing his tie in the mirror. "Quite finished," Erin said breathlessly. "Did you finish unpacking everything?" Erin didn't answer right away, prompting Remy to turn toward him. "Erin?" Erin answered with a drowsy hum. "I asked if you finished unpacking." "Oh!" Erin stared at him, seemingly surprised by the question. "Oh, yes, I did." "Good," Remy nodded once. "We have a facility on the ground level of the building. If you need to store anything else, just let me know and I'll take care of it when I come back." "I think I should be okay," Erin mumbled, picking at the end of his hair nervously. "The closet's more than big enough." Remy abandoned his tie and frowned at Erin's flushed cheeks and lowered head. He'd sunk his shoulders in to make himself smaller, and his eyes were downcast, examining the tops of his tennis shoes. He looked like, and Remy hated to even think this, but he looked like an omega submitting to his alpha. Remy stepped toward Erin, his freshly polished shoes clacking on the hard wood. He raised the back of his hand to Erin's forehead, and then to his flushed cheeks. "Remy?" Erin's voice trembled as he spoke. "What are you doing?" "Checking you for fever. Your face is all red and sweaty." "I'm fine." Erin ducked out of Remy's grasp. "I'm just sweaty from unpacking is all." "Are you sure? It would be bad if you got Annalise sick her first week of school." "I'm sure." Erin rolled his eyes, banishing any trace of submission Remy thought he'd perceived. Outwardly, Erin looked the same as ever. He wore his hair in a high ponytail, pulling his bangs back with those same ridiculous clips. His style of dress remained the same as well. Today he was wearing a pair of pink overalls over a short-sleeved checkered dress shirt. Yes, Erin looked perfectly healthy, so why did Remy feel so distressed and agitated? "I can take off work if you're feeling unwell, Erin. It's no trouble." "I appreciate the offer, but there's no need to call off work." Erin stepped toward him and grabbed the two ends of the tie. Remy stiffened immediately, wondering whether Erin would hug him again. Instead, Erin leveled the fabric evenly around his neck and tied it into a perfect Windsor knot. "Trust me." Remy stared down at the top of Erin's blonde head and watched his delicate fingers trickling down the length of his tie. "Annalie and I will be just fine." Erin took a step back as if to admire his work and patted the stripes on Remy's shoulder. "All right, then." Remy sighed, fighting a strange urge to pull Erin into the crook of his arm. "I'll text you when I land tonight. Annalie should be asleep, so I'll call in the morning before she goes to school." "Right." Erin nodded firmly. "I'll make sure she's in bed on time." "Annalie." As Remy walked toward the door, Erin and Annalie trailed behind him like a pair of baby chicks. "I want you on your best behavior." "Yes, Papa." "Listen to Erin." "Yes, Papa." "And make sure you practice your piano every day." "Yes, Papa." "Erin, you make sure she practices too." "Yes, Papa." Erin mimicked Annalie's obedient tone. Remy paused in his step and turned toward Erin. "Cute," he uttered dryly. Erin grinned innocently and folded his hands in front of him, pursing his lips to suppress another giggle. "We'll both be on our best behavior." "I trust that you will." Remy fixed his hat on his head and opened the door to leave. "Annalie, make sure you tell Papa goodbye." "Bye, Papa," she waved excitedly. "See you soon." "Fly safe, Remy," Erin echoed Annalie's farewell. Remy stared at them both. A powerful sense of déjà vu overcame him. "Annalie, say bye-bye to Papa," she would say, holding his then infant daughter in her hands. "Fly safe, Remy." The words reverberated in the chamber Remy kept his memories of her. He would never be able to forget her, but he could subdue the pain her memory caused him. "Lock the door behind me," Remy murmured, turning his back toward them both. Then he closed the door behind him and left without another word. Chapter 6. Erin rolled over in his bed for the 7th time that night, buzzing from head to toe. Anticipation? Perhaps. But more likely due to the unfamiliar bed and the trace of Alpha still lingering in the air. He had a busy day tomorrow, both he and Annalie's first day of school. Yet he couldn't seem to close his eyes. Every time he felt himself drifting, he would think of something else he forgot to do on Remy's endless list of to-dos. The man had left earlier that day, and Erin couldn't say he was sad to see him go. He hated the way Remy scoffed at anything that he didn't deem appropriate, not to mention that he hadn't even hugged Annalise since Erin moved in. But he's not all bad. Remy had after all helped Erin move in, and he'd even offered him the princess suite when Erin's belongings wouldn't fit in the guest bedroom. But still, he was cold and unyielding majority of the time. The man was as hard and sharp as a nail, and when he wasn't complaining, he was roaring out orders to Erin and Annalie like a drill sergeant. A sexy drill sergeant. Certainly he was handsome enough. Even Erin had to admit he'd cut a fine figure in his pilot uniform earlier that day. His hair was pulled back, sleek and dark, with his sideburns meticulously lined. The blue in his jacket accentuated the blue of his almond eyes, and Erin felt his cheeks flush when Remy stared at him. Just the sight of him had literally taken Erin's breath away. When midnight rolled around, Erin abandoned his search for sleep and decided to make himself a cup of warm milk. He slipped out of the feathered-down comforter and tiptoed down the hall, past Annalee's room. After checking that she was sleeping soundly, he crept down the stairs and into the dimly lit kitchen. Erin opened the fridge and grabbed the gallon of milk, searching for a pot to heat it in. The condo was everything that he would want in a home if he could afford it. Clean but not sterile, and though it could use a bit more color, Erin appreciated the simplicity of the design. Now if I was a pot, where would I be? He looked in the cabinet under the sink, and even in the stove. He was just about to check the dishwasher when he heard someone say, "Try checking above you." Erin jumped back and screamed, clutching his hand to his chest. He scooted his hand back towards the sink and searched for something to swing. "Who's there?" Erin held the skillet at the ready. "Stop yelling or you're going to wake Annalee." Erin frowned through the darkness, feeling strangely drawn to the rigid voice. The light clicked on, and Remy stood in the entry wearing a wicked smirk. "Jesus, Remy!" Erin let out a relieved breath. "Don't sneak up on me like that." "My apologies." He stepped toward Erin, still dressed in his uniform. "I didn't mean to startle you." "Startle is an understatement." Erin's heart was still racing. "You scared the Holy Trinity out of me." "That wasn't my intention," Remy chuckled lowly, and Erin could see the tips of his heavy fangs when he did. They glistened under the beaming track lights and felt starkly primal in such a domestic kitchen. "I was just making some warm milk." Erin reached up on his tiptoes to grab the saucepan, but he was still an inch too short to reach it. "Allow me." Erin froze as he felt Remy's muscular frame press against him. He barely needed to reach in order to unhook the saucepot, but the shift in his height made Erin tense. Then they were chest to chest, or more like face to chest. Remy was nearly a foot taller than him, and in this position the contrast was clear. "Here." Remy offered him the handle. Erin took it from him slowly and placed it on the open range burner behind him. "Thank you," he muttered softly, avoiding Remy's potent stare drilling into the side of his neck. I didn't expect you back this early." "It's 2 a.m. Erin's ears heated at the husky timbre in Remy's tone. "Then I guess I should say so late?" Erin giggled in an attempt to calm his nerves, but it only made him more aware of Remy's presence. As he laughed, his chest heaved, and he was more aware of the fact that Remy was less than an inch away from him. "I decided to come home early," Remy answered to his question. "Why?" Erin's voice cracked. I mean, I didn't expect you to come back so soon. Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine." Remy grinned, and something clenched in the pit of Erin's stomach. Maybe he was imagining it, but Remy felt somehow different to him. More open. More raw. It didn't help that the alpha's hair was a muss of soft waves, laying gingerly on the front of his brow. True, he still wore his pilot uniform, all sleek and formal, but the buttons were undone at his collar, allowing Erin a peek at Remy's smooth chest. His white shirt was untucked, and his tie unknotted, giving Remy the air of a man caught half-dressed. And then Eric remembered his own state. He'd slipped from the bed in his pajamas, and was currently dressed in a long nightshirt and boxer briefs. "I should get to bed," Erin mumbled, waiting for Remy to take a step back. He didn't. Instead, the alpha raised his hand up to Erin's cheek and smoothed the tendrils of hair behind Erin's reddening ear. "I convinced myself that I was coming home because I wanted to be here for Annalee's first day of school," Remy whispered. "That," Erin swallowed the growing lump in his throat, "was very admirable of you. That is—" Erin let out a gasp of air as Remy's thumb caressed his jawline. "I know she'll appreciate that." "Of course. But that isn't the reason I came back." "It's not?" Erin quivered as Remy's thumb reached his bottom lip. The alpha shook his head slowly and pulled down the crease of his mouth, exposing the root of Erin's omega fangs. "Then why?" Erin whispered, resisting the urge he had to bite down on Remy's thumb. "I thought it would be obvious." "If it was obvious, then I wouldn't be asking." Erin's jaw tightened at the arrogance laced in Remy's words. Hush. Stop talking for once. Remy leaned in closer to him, oppressing the air with the perfume of alpha musk. Erin breathed it in deliberately and let out an involuntary whine as he exhaled. The world seemed to fill around them. Remy's mouth hovered above his, and Erin breathed out the words, "Tell me." When their lips finally met, Erin's heart leapt, then ricocheted in his chest. He stood painfully still, unable to believe what was happening. "Is it obvious now?" Remy whispered against his lips. "Remy." Erin's body finally loosened, and he wrapped his arms around Remy's waist, pulling him closer. Remy held the bottom of his jaw firmly, sliding his tongue up and teasing the inside of his cheek. "Oh, God." Erin's body lit up and goose flesh erupted over his skin. He clung to Remy's jacket as the alpha lifted him up by his thighs and carried him over to the kitchen island. Oh, God. Was he doing this? He must have been, because Remy's hand steadily crept up his thigh and cupped his taut sack. Then Remy kissed him, a kiss that made his breath hitch and his mouth water. Erin flicked his tongue against Remy's, savoring the taste of him and mingling their spit. Remy growled low from his gut, and Erin answered the alphan call with a purr, raising his head and exposing his neck. He closed his eyes and waited for the inevitable bite, a loopy smile on his lips. "Rin?" a soft voice called to him. "I think it's time to get up for school." "School?" "Yes," the voice confirmed more urgently. "The bus is gonna come soon." "Bus?"